Welcome back. It was another busy week in Washington business news. We've all got Nats fever and are wearing the red. But meantime, the Lerner family is simultaneously playing for another big win, this one in real estate. And all eyes were on the job numbers this week. Unemployment defying most predictions by dropping to 5.9%, the lowest level since the recession began in 2008. And with gains in private sector jobs, one prominent D.C. startup founder got a new job of his own this week. Here to talk about those topics in our roundtable, Stephen Overly, technology and venture capital reporter for the Washington Post Capital Business, and Michael Hirsh, national editor of Politico magazine, who writes frequently about business and economic news in the nation's capital. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Stephen, let me start with you. All eyes have been not only on the Nationals baseball team, but on the FBI headquarters and where it will move. And the Lerner family came in with a surprise bid and proposal that their site in Maryland, in Prince George's County, should be one of those considered. And it was a surprise bid, but it ended up as one of the top 3 finalists. You all are reporting in the Washington Post that at the very time that the Nats were playing a playoff game, their COO of the team was also acting as COO to make this bid. How did it go?
It went well, I think, by most accounts. You know, they're proposing about 80 acres of land in Landover to be considered as the future site of the FBI headquarters.
They want the old Landover Mall that they own to be considered.
Right, absolutely. And it is one of 3 finalists being considered. You know, we won't know which site is ultimately chosen until likely sometime next year. But, you know, right now they're still in the running.
And they want this one just as badly as they want a Nationals win. Real estate is the heart of the Lerner family business.
Absolutely, and the winner gets the current FBI headquarters, so it's a lot at stake.
And a lot that they're demanding for that site, so we'll have to see who wins it ultimately. Michael Hirsh, also a lot at stake. We are closing in on the midterm elections, 1 month away. President Obama had been hoping to focus on the economy. 9 out of 10 voters in a recent poll say the economy will be their #1 priority headed into the polls for the midterms. But he's been overwhelmed with international crises. He's only now turning back to the economy. But he's trying to say all is going great, and yet thread the needle for us the way the Obama White House is trying to say, yes, job numbers are doing better, but we still get it, that there are still people in pain.
Well, the numbers are certainly going his way. I mean, the news just out today from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as you mentioned at the outset, 5.9%, the first time it's dropped below 6% since 2008, July of that year, so clearly predating the Obama presidency. Obama's he made a big speech yesterday at Northwestern University. He's going to make another one today in Indiana, trying to tout this news before the midterms. But, you know, the overall recovery has been rocky, slow, fitful, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And the poll numbers reveal that there is still mistrust in his leadership. I mean, the latest Politico poll in September showed that 57% of voters in those battleground states that he most needs to keep the Senate think that his economic leadership has been, you know, has really fallen short. So it's a very tough sell.
And when you look at his base, wages have not kept pace with job recovery. He's blaming all that on Republicans. He's saying they want tax cuts for the rich and that they don't want to raise the minimum wage. Are people in a mood to listen and blame the Republicans? A lot of people are saying that, especially if you look at the Senate, they look poised to win back control of the Senate. Yeah,
I mean, those are the latest numbers, and even though you know, House Republicans' ratings are far lower than the president's in general, he's still the guy in the White House. That is the case that he made in his speech yesterday, has made repeatedly, that it's really Republican obstructionism that's caused all this income inequality. But, you know, people's perception is that they simply have not gotten ahead. You know, household incomes are still not rising. Wages have been flat for years, decades, in fact, with a lot of backsliding during the last 5 years. And, you know, in the end, you're going to blame the guy in the Oval Office.
That goes with the territory, goes with the title. Stephen Overly, big new job for one of the more successful startup founders in our city, Tim O'Shaughnessy. He started Living Social with a group of others. Even with the bumpy road they've had lately trying to maintain their momentum, undeniably a successful startup, but he stepped down this year, noting that the company needed some new leadership. Right. He is the son-in-law of Donald Graham, best known for the family that owned the Washington Post. They've sold the Washington Post. They're now Graham Holdings. What's his new job, and what is it that the Graham Holdings company is supposed to be doing now that they're not a newspaper company?
Sure. So this week he was named the president of the company, a job in which he'll oversee investments and acquisitions for Graham Holdings. And, in the announcement, Donald Graham sort of admitted that the company right now is setting itself on a new direction. It's long been known as the owner of the Washington Post newspaper. Now it has to turn its business eye to other endeavors.
And they really wanted to be focused on digital revolutions and startups and other things. It's interesting that Donald Graham's daughter, Tim's wife, Laura O'Shaughnessy, is a successful startup founder, and Graham Holdings has invested in her company.
Yes, that's right. Graham Holdings is certainly a family business, and the announcement, Don Graham said he was adding a new generation and hiring Tim O'Shaughnessy.
People have been watching that closely. Michael Hirsh, people have also been watching very closely this week Ebola. Talk to us a little bit about what you think the concern here in the U.S. might mean for business travel, for international trade. The Obama administration has worked very hard, and the CDC have worked very hard to say, not a problem here in the U.S., we've got this. But it's hard to convince people of that when you say, this is a virulent virus that's spreading quicker than any we've ever seen and the most deadly we've ever seen in Africa. But don't worry, it's all fine here in the U.S. Do you think businesses are going to slow down at all?
Not immediately, but I think that there is fear in the air, and some of these reassurances sound, unfortunately, like famous last words. It seems like every time we hear a new reassurance, we hear of a new case, like the one just reported today in D.C., as well as the fellow in Texas, the first one to be infected here. Look, on the whole, there is reason to be reassured about the United States itself. The medical system, the buffers we have here, unlike anything in Africa, and the fact that the disease, for now anyway, remains one that can only be communicated through bodily fluids, not through the air or anything like that. So it does seem contained for the moment, but you don't know, where it could go now. Could it mutate into some other form of some doctors have suggested. So I do think that the longer this lingers and the longer Africa stumbles over its own response to Ebola, the more fear there's going to be in the air in terms of international travel.
We've got to wrap. I've spent a lot of time this week at Dulles International Airport hearing from travelers of all economic backgrounds and of all different places saying they would like to see a lot more testing at the airports. People are ready to give up a few civil liberties right now as this fear spreads. Even if CDC is right and there is no danger, people are nervous. Thank you all so much. Thanks for joining us this week on Washington Business Report. We'll be right back.